The galaxy had already turned away. The council had closed their great chambers, their fleets had pulled back, and the people who once promised protection had decided that one small world was not worth saving. The Dravic Empire was advancing, crushing colonies one after another, and no one dared to stand against them. Every broadcast spoke the same words: resistance is hopeless. Yet somewhere, far from the shining cities of the core worlds, a group of frightened refugees whispered the name of a world most of them had never seen: Earth. The refugees had begged the council for help. They had cried, pleaded, even offered to surrender everything just to be spared. But the council only lowered their eyes, afraid to anger the Empire. In those silent halls, no one dared to speak for them. Only one name was spoken, almost as a myth, a desperate last hope: humans. At first, the refugees laughed at the idea. How could a single species, one world, face an empire that spanned thousands of stars? The humans were not even members of the council anymore. They had been called dangerous, unpredictable, too violent to be trusted. For centuries, humanity had walked its own path, watching the galaxy from a distance. Many believed they had vanished into silence. Yet now, when the galaxy had abandoned them, there was nowhere else to turn. It began with a small ship, broken and scarred, carrying survivors from 3 destroyed colonies. They came to the Sol system with nothing but desperation in their voices. The transmission was weak, almost lost in the static, but the words carried across the void: "Please, they are coming. The Dravic will not stop, help us." No one knew if Earth would answer. Weeks passed in silence. The refugees prepared for the worst, believing even humans had turned their backs. But then, one night, the stars above the refugee station changed. A shadow appeared, vast and dark, blocking out the light of the nearest sun. The station's sensors screamed warnings as a colossal shape drifted closer. The refugees thought it was the Empire's fleet come to finish them. Panic spread. Families clutched each other, certain death was at hand. Then the signal came. Calm, steady, spoken in a voice that seemed carved from iron. "This is the vessel Aegis. You have called for aid. Earth has heard you." The station fell silent. Every survivor froze, listening to the impossible words. Some wept. Others whispered prayers. A ship, human, real, alive, was here. The Aegis was unlike anything they had seen before. It was not sleek like the council ships, nor vast and towering like the Empire's dreadnoughts. It was brutal, sharp, built with the cold purpose of survival. Armor thicker than mountains. Engines that roared like storms. Weapons that made the stars tremble. Even damaged, even scarred from battles long forgotten, it radiated a power the refugees had never imagined. The captain of the Aegis did not speak much. He only said that Earth had not forgotten, that humanity did not abandon those who asked for help. No council vote was needed. No endless debates. The humans had heard a cry and had come. The Dravic, however, did not care. To them, the Aegis was just another target. Soon, their fleet appeared on the edge of the system. Dozens of warships, their hulls glowing red with the Empire's cruel banners. They moved with the arrogance of predators, certain they would crush this last pocket of resistance. The refugees on the station watched in horror. The council had told them this would happen. The Dravic would sweep through, and nothing could stop them. They begged the human ship to run, to save itself, but the Aegis did not move. It drifted forward, alone, toward the Empire's fleet. Every voice on the station rose in panic. "They will kill you. They will kill us all." But the captain of the Aegis gave only one reply, soft and steady, as if he already knew the outcome. "No. They will learn." The battle began in silence. The Dravic ships opened fire, unleashing a storm of plasma and missiles. Space lit up like a burning sun. The Aegis vanished inside the storm, swallowed by fire. For a moment, it seemed over. Refugees clutched their children, ready to face the end. Then the fire cleared. And the Aegis was still there. Its shields flared, its armor scorched, but it was alive. More than alive, it was moving. The ship turned slowly, like a predator locking onto prey, and then its weapons lit the void. No one had ever seen weapons like these. Great beams cut across the stars, slicing through ships as if they were paper. Missiles screamed outward, moving faster than light, tearing whole cruisers into pieces. One by one, the Empire's warships burned. The refugees could only watch, wide-eyed, as the impossible unfolded. The ship they had thought was alone was not merely surviving. It was winning. When the last Dravik vessel exploded, silence fell again. The Aegis stood alone among the wreckage, surrounded by fire and ruin, its hull still glowing from the fury of battle. The refugees could not believe it. The Council had told them no one could resist. The Empire was unstoppable. Yet here, before their very eyes, one human ship had shattered an armada. The captain's voice returned, calm as ever. "You are safe. For now. But this is only the beginning." The refugees knew then that the galaxy had been wrong. Humanity had not vanished. Humanity had not grown weak. They had simply been waiting. And now, the Empire that thought itself eternal had made a mistake. It had given Earth a reason to fight. The wreckage of the Dravik fleet still burned in the void, drifting silently as twisted metal and shattered hulls glowed against the stars. The refugees stared through their viewing panels, unable to believe what they had just seen. For so long, the Empire had seemed untouchable, a force that crushed every world in its path. Yet one human ship, a single vessel, had destroyed them. But even as awe spread among the survivors, fear did too. Because if the Empire learned what happened here, if they discovered a human warship had returned to the stars, their fury would be unstoppable. The captain of the Aegis seemed to know this. His voice carried across the station, calm and firm. "The Dravik will send more. This battle is only a warning shot. You must decide now, stay and risk their wrath, or follow us into the dark." The refugees argued, terrified of both choices. Some wanted to remain, believing the Empire would not waste more ships on such a small station. Others wanted to follow the humans, desperate for protection. Fear made them whisper, fear made them doubt, but all of them knew one truth: staying meant death. And so, for the first time, the scattered survivors united. They chose to trust the humans. The Aegis moved slowly, its great engines pulling the refugee station and the smaller vessels into a protective formation. They jumped into the void together, fleeing into uncharted space. The journey was long and silent, but the refugees never stopped watching the human ship ahead of them. It was more than a shield, it was hope. Yet not all were comforted. In the shadows of the galaxy, word spread. The Empire had received the report. A fleet had been destroyed, not by rebels, not by smugglers, but by a vessel carrying the hated name of Earth. Rage shook the Dravik throne world. The High Command promised revenge. New fleets were ordered to hunt the humans down. But in the halls of the Galactic Council, the news brought only fear. The council chambers filled with arguments. Some members demanded they denounce the humans immediately, declaring them a danger to peace. Others whispered that perhaps Earth should be asked for help. But none dared speak too loudly. The Empire was watching. To side with humans was to invite death. So, as always, the Council chose silence. Far from the Council, the Aegis guided the refugees into a hidden system. There, among asteroids and broken moons, a secret base flickered to life. It was not a new outpost, it was old, older than any of the refugees could understand. Human-built. Forgotten. Waiting. The base opened its arms to them, docking bays unfolding like the mouth of some sleeping giant. The refugees gasped as they saw the vast hangars, the strange machines, the silent ships resting in the shadows. Humanity had not been idle during its years of silence. They had been building, preparing, watching the stars with quiet eyes. The refugees whispered in awe. They knew. They were waiting. The captain of the Aegis did not answer their questions. Instead, he met with his officers in the hidden command chamber. The enemy would come again. This time, larger, stronger, determined to crush them. And when they did, the galaxy would be watching. That night, among the broken moons, the refugees saw something they had never seen before. The humans trained. Soldiers in dark armor marched through the base, their movements precise and cold. Ships were awakened, engines flaring for the first time in centuries. Weapons that had been sealed away were unlocked, their glow filling the hangars. Humanity was preparing for war. The refugees could not understand why. Why risk everything for them? Why fight when the galaxy had already turned away? They asked the captain, their voices trembling with both gratitude and fear. His reply was simple. Because we remember what it was like when no one came to help us. The words struck them harder than any weapon. Humanity, the species once called too violent, too dangerous, was the only one willing to stand when all others had abandoned them. But even as hope spread among the refugees, the Empire was moving. A vast fleet gathered on the edge of the sector, commanded by one of the Dravic warlords himself. He promised that the humans would be crushed, their ship torn apart, their name erased once again. And so, the refugees' safety was only an illusion. The storm was already on its way. The sensors of the hidden base picked up the first signs, a shadow at the edge of the system, the faint signature of engines far too powerful to be smugglers or traders. Fear rippled through the station. Families clung to one another, certain the end had come. The Aegis, however, moved forward without hesitation. Its weapons flared to life, its shields grew brighter, and its engines roared. This time, it would not stand alone. Smaller human ships, long hidden in the base, joined it, rising like predators from their slumber. The refugees held their breath as they watched the impossible unfold. The Empire was coming with fury and fire. Humanity was rising with steel and silence. The second battle was about to begin. And this time, the whole galaxy would hear it. The warning alarms echoed through the hidden base. Refugees pressed against the viewing windows, their hearts sinking as the stars beyond flickered with new shapes. The Empire had come. Not a handful of ships this time, not a scouting force, but an armada. Hundreds of Dravic warships entered the system, their crimson banners glowing like fire across the void. The survivors trembled. They had seen one human ship destroy a fleet, but this was different. No vessel, no matter how powerful, could stand against such numbers. Whispers of despair spread through the station. We will all die. Even the humans cannot save us. But aboard the Aegis, there was no fear. The captain stood on the command deck, his eyes calm as the enemy fleet formed its attack lines. Around him, his crew worked with silent precision. Their ship bore scars from the last battle, but its heart still beat strong. And this time, they were not alone. From the depths of the hidden base, new ships rose. Smaller than the Aegis, but sharp and deadly human-built warships joined their leader in the void. Their hulls bore no bright colors, only the dark steel of function. They did not need banners. They carried the name of Earth itself. The Dravic commander laughed as he saw them. A dozen ships against his hundreds. He opened his channels, his voice cold and filled with arrogance. Humans, you should have stayed in your forgotten hole. Today, I will erase you from the stars. The captain of the Aegis replied with only 5 words. Then try, if you can. And with that, the battle began. The Empire moved first. Their warships surged forward, weapons blazing, filling the void with fire. Plasma beams and missile storms lit the darkness, a tide of destruction that should have been unstoppable. The refugees watching from the station cried out in terror, certain that nothing could survive such fury. But the humans had been waiting. The Aegis unleashed its power, shields burning bright as it carved through the enemy lines. The smaller human ships darted in its shadow, striking with precision. Missiles that bent through space, cannons that roared like thunder, beams that cut through armor as if it were paper. The Empire had numbers, but humanity had something else: experience. For every human ship, 10 Dravic vessels fell. The void filled with wreckage, burning metal drifting across the stars. The refugees could not believe it. They had never seen warriors fight like this, never seen ships move with such deadly purpose. The humans did not fight for glory. They fought to win. Yet the empire was vast, and the tide pressed harder. Wave after wave came, ships surrounding the humans, trying to smother them with fire. The smaller human ships began to falter, shields breaking, hulls tearing. One by one, they fell. On the station, panic grew again. They are losing. The humans cannot hold. But still, the Aegis fought on. Alone now, surrounded by dozens of enemy vessels, it turned like a beast cornered, striking faster, harder, its weapons glowing white with fury. Inside, the crew worked without rest, even as smoke filled the decks and sparks rained from broken panels. The captain gave no sign of fear. His orders came steady, each word sharp as steel. Hold the line. Target their flagships. Show them who we are. And the Aegis obeyed. In the center of the Dravic fleet, their command ship loomed, a vast battleship, larger than anything the refugees had ever seen. It poured fire into the Aegis, determined to break it. The captain knew the battle would not end until that ship was destroyed. The Aegis turned its prow toward the heart of the enemy armada. Shields shattered, armor burned, but still it moved forward. The Dravic laughed, believing the humans were desperate, reckless, foolish. They did not understand. Humanity had always been this way, unbreakable in the face of impossible odds. The refugees held their breath as the Aegis charged. The void lit up with fire, enemy ships breaking apart in its path. Every gun, every weapon, every last missile the ship had left was unleashed in one furious storm. The Dravic flagship's shields cracked, then shattered, then burned. For a moment, silence. And then, with a roar that shook the stars, the Dravic command ship exploded. The Empire's fleet faltered. Their formation broke. Without their commander, their pride turned to fear. One by one, their ships retreated, vanishing into the void. The impossible had happened again. The Aegis drifted among the wreckage, battered, bleeding fire from its wounds, but alive. It had done what no other species dared dream. It had broken the Empire twice. On the refugee station, silence turned to cheers. Families wept with joy, voices shouting the same word over and over, humans. Humans. But in the council halls, fear only grew. If humanity could destroy two fleets, what else were they capable of? Whispers spread, if Earth rose again, no empire, no council, no one would be safe from them. Some wanted to reach out, to ally with the humans. Others demanded they be crushed before it was too late. The galaxy was watching now. And deep within the Aegis, as the captain looked out over the battlefield, he spoke quietly to himself, words only his crew could hear. This is just the beginning. They will come again. Stronger. And when they do, we will be ready. The battlefield was quiet now. Only drifting wreckage and fading fire remained where the Dravic fleet had once filled the stars. But the silence was heavy, not peaceful. Everyone knew it would not last. The Aegis limped back to the hidden base, its armor torn, engines bleeding smoke. Refugees gathered at the docking bay as the giant vessel returned. To them, it was not just a warship, it was a miracle. Twice now, it had done the impossible. Twice it had saved them. But even as they cheered, the crew of the Aegis knew the truth. The Empire would not stop. Each battle only fed their fury. Next time, the storm would be greater. Inside the base, repairs began. Human engineers worked with quiet skill, patching scars, replacing weapons, reviving systems that had slept for centuries. The refugees watched in awe as machines they did not understand came to life under human hands. Every corner of the base pulsed with activity. It was clear now, humanity had not been hiding in weakness. They had been preparing. Children peeked at soldiers training in the halls, their movements sharp, their eyes like stone. Old men whispered prayers when they saw new ships rising from the hangars, steel wings glinting in the artificial light. Hope grew, but so did questions. Why did the humans fight for them? Why risk everything for strangers the galaxy had already abandoned? Some refugees gathered the courage to ask the captain himself. They found him standing on the observation deck, staring into the endless dark. His answer was simple, almost too simple. Because no one came for us. Long ago, we begged for help. And no one came. We swore then, we would never turn our backs on others. The words spread through the base like fire. The humans were not saviors. They were not saints. They were people who remembered pain. That was why they fought. But far across the galaxy, the Dravic Empire roared with rage. Their warlord's death burned their pride. Never before had such humiliation scarred their history. Fleets had fallen, and the name of Earth whispered in fear once more. The Empire declared war, not only on humanity, but on anyone who dared stand with them. The Galactic Council shivered in its chambers. Endless debates filled the halls. Some argued that the humans must be crushed before they grew too powerful. Others said the Council should ally with them, use their strength against the Empire. But fear ruled every decision, and as always, the Council chose the safest path, silence. Yet silence could not hide the truth. Across the stars, small colonies, forgotten races, and broken worlds began to whisper. Stories of human ships striking against the Empire spread like wildfire. Refugees told tales of the Aegis, the ship that could not be destroyed. For the first time in centuries, those crushed under the Empire dared to believe there might be hope. Hope the Empire intended to destroy. Scouts reported a massive fleet forming, larger than anything seen in generations. Thousands of warships. An invasion force not meant to fight one battle, but to wipe Earth from existence. The Dravic planned to strike at the heart, to shatter humanity before it could rise again. The humans knew it. The Aegis captain gathered his crew and spoke with steel in his voice. The Empire believes fear will break us. They are wrong. If they come for us, we will not wait. We will carry the war to them. And so the hidden base became something greater. It was no longer only a refuge. It became a forge. Human soldiers trained the refugees willing to fight. Engineers rebuilt ships faster, stronger, deadlier than before. Old weapons, long buried, were brought out of storage, their glow filling the hangars with terrible light. The refugees saw it with their own eyes. Humanity was preparing not just to defend, but to strike. The Empire thought they were hunters. Soon, they would learn what it meant to be prey. But fear still haunted the hearts of many. Some refugees whispered that the humans were too dangerous, that perhaps the Council was right to shun them. Others feared that standing with Earth would bring the Empire's wrath upon all of them. The base was filled with arguments, with doubt. Humanity had chosen to fight, but not everyone was ready to follow. Then, one night, alarms sounded again. Scouts had returned, half destroyed, carrying a single message: the Empire's great fleet was moving. Not toward the hidden base. Not toward a colony. Toward Earth itself. The room fell silent. Refugees stared at the humans, waiting for panic, waiting for despair. But the captain of the Aegis only nodded, his face carved with determination. "They think they can strike our home," he said. "Let them come. The galaxy will learn what happens when Earth is threatened." The humans began their preparations in silence, with grim focus. The refugees, watching them, felt the weight of history pressing down. The Empire was bringing its full might. Humanity was ready to answer. The greatest battle of the age was coming. The news spread like fire. An Empire fleet, larger than anything seen in centuries, was moving toward Earth. Refugees whispered in fear. Even the bravest among them believed no world could stand against such a force. The Aegis and its small fleet prepared to depart, but there was no hiding the truth. The Dravic were not sending hunters this time. They were sending exterminators. Entire sectors of ships, thousands of weapons, a tide of fire meant to wipe Earth from existence. The refugees begged the humans to flee. "Leave. Go into the dark. Hide your world. If they find you, they will burn everything you are." But the humans did not run. On Earth itself, alarms sounded across every city. For generations, humanity had lived in silence, watching the galaxy from afar. Now, their greatest fear had come true. Yet instead of despair, something else filled the air: steel, fire, determination. Factories lit up, long-dormant forges roared back to life, and war machines rolled once more across Earth's surface. Orbiting shipyards, hidden for centuries, came alive with activity. Dozens of warships, built in secret, slid into the void. Humanity had not forgotten war. They had only been waiting. The refugees arriving near Earth could not believe what they saw. They had thought Earth was undefended, vulnerable, forgotten. Instead, they found a fortress. The planet glowed with shield stations, orbital cannons, and fleets waiting in silence. And at the heart of it all, the Aegis returned home. The captain stood before his people, his voice carrying across every channel, to every ship, to every refugee watching. The Empire believes fear will break us. They believe we are weak, scattered, forgotten. But they are wrong. Today, Earth stands. Today, we show the galaxy what it means to defy the Empire. The refugees listened, their fear turning to something they had not felt in years: hope. Then the sky burned. The Dravik fleet arrived at the edge of the Sol system. Thousands of ships filled the dark, their engines glowing red, their weapons ready. The ground itself seemed to shake as the Empire's armada spread across the stars. Never before had so many warships gathered for one purpose. On Earth, silence fell. The people stared at the heavens, knowing death was coming. But they did not run. They did not beg. They stood. The Aegis led the human fleet forward, engines roaring, weapons glowing white. Refugees watched in awe as Earth's defenders rose to meet the storm. The first clash was like thunder. Empire warships surged forward, releasing waves of fire. Plasma storms lit the void, missiles screamed through space, and beams tore across the system. Entire moons shook under the fury. But the humans did not break. Their ships moved with precision, striking hard, vanishing into the dark, returning with fury. Great cannons unleashed beams that cut through cruisers like glass. Missiles curved and twisted, hunting their targets with deadly accuracy. The Empire had numbers, but the humans had something the Dravik had never faced before: an unyielding will to fight for their home. The battle raged for hours. Refugees watched from stations and cities below, every explosion lighting the night sky. Some prayed. Some wept. Some simply stared, unable to believe they were alive to see it. But slowly, the Empire began to press harder. Their endless numbers pushed forward. Human ships burned. Orbital defenses shattered. The Aegis itself took heavy fire, its armor breaking, its shields flickering. On the ground, people felt despair clawing at their hearts. They are too many. We cannot win. Then something happened that no one expected. From the far side of the system, more ships arrived. At first, the humans thought it was another enemy fleet. But the signals were different. The shapes were unfamiliar. These were not Dravik vessels. They were allies. Small groups from forgotten colonies, ragged fleets from broken worlds, survivors of the Empire's cruelty, all had come. Inspired by the humans' defiance, they had risked everything to stand with Earth. The refugees on Earth cried out in joy. For the first time, the Empire was not facing one world alone. It was facing a growing alliance. The humans welcomed them without question. Their ships joined the fight, their fire adding to the storm. The battle shifted. The Empire still had the numbers, but now it faced something greater: unity. The Aegis, battered and burning, surged forward once more. Its captain gave a single order that echoed across the fleet: drive them back. And with one last furious strike, the humans and their allies pushed against the Empire's lines. Ship after ship fell, explosions tearing through the armada. The Dravik fleet, stunned and broken, began to retreat. The sky cleared. Silence returned. Earth still stood. On the ground, people wept with relief. Refugees embraced their children. Across the fleet, cheers rose. Humanity had done the impossible. The Empire had thrown its greatest force at Earth, and failed. But as the Aegis drifted among the wreckage, its hull scorched and broken, the captain's voice was steady, almost grim. "This is not the end. The Empire will not forgive this. They will come again, stronger. And the Council will not remain silent forever. The galaxy has seen us rise. Now they must decide if they will stand with us, or against us." The refugees shivered, for they understood the truth. The war had only just begun. The stars were quiet after the battle for Earth, but everyone knew it was only a pause. The Empire had been beaten, yet not destroyed. Their pride had been wounded, their fleets shattered, but the Dravik were far from finished. Somewhere in the dark, they were rebuilding, gathering strength, plotting their revenge. On Earth, the people refused to wait for death to come again. The Aegis floated in orbit, scarred but alive, while engineers worked day and night to restore it. Shipyards across the planet roared with new life. For the first time in centuries, humanity did not hide from the galaxy. They were rising to meet it. Refugees walked through the great cities of Earth, staring in awe at the preparations. Soldiers trained in endless drills. Vast cannons pointed toward the sky. New warships left the docks each week, stronger and sharper than before. But there was something more than steel. There was unity. Humanity had once been scattered, divided, full of mistrust. Now, after facing the Empire, they stood as one. And they were not alone. The fleets that had come during the battle, the ragged survivors, the forgotten colonies, the voices that had once been silent, remained. They had seen Earth stand against the Empire, and they would not leave. Together, they began to form something new. A coalition. Not ruled by the Council, not chained by fear. A gathering of those who had suffered, those who had been ignored. And, at its center, humanity. But unity brought danger. Across the galaxy, the Council grew restless. Their whispers grew sharper. The humans are too strong. If they rise, no one can stop them. Others argued that the humans should be embraced, allied, guided. Yet the Council was paralyzed, afraid of the Empire and afraid of Earth. The Empire, however, was not paralyzed. Their spies reported everything. The rise of Earth. The growing alliance. The new ships. The Dravik warlords gathered and agreed, humanity must be destroyed before their influence spread. A third fleet was prepared, even larger than before. But this time, the Empire did not plan to attack Earth alone. They would strike at the colonies, the refugees, the weak allies that had gathered under humanity's shadow. They would cut away Earth's support and leave them alone once more. The captain of the Aegis learned of the plan. His voice was cold when he spoke to his officers. They believe they can bleed us. They believe fear will break our friends. Then we will not wait. We will strike first. And so, for the first time in living memory, humanity carried war into the Empire's own territory. The Aegis led the fleet beyond the border, its hull gleaming with new armor, its scars turned to strength. Beside it, dozens of human ships and coalition vessels moved as one. Refugees aboard the Allied ships felt their hearts shake. They were not used to being hunters. They had always been prey. But now, following the humans, they felt something new, power. The first target was a Dravik supply world, a fortress that fed entire fleets. The Empire believed it was safe, far from Earth, hidden behind their walls of steel. They were wrong. The human fleet fell upon the system like a storm. Missiles screamed through the void, beams cut through defenses, and soldiers in black armor descended onto the planet's surface. The battle was quick, brutal, merciless. When it was over, the fortress burned, and the Empire's fleets starved without its support. Word spread like lightning. The humans were not only defenders, they were attackers. For the first time, the Empire itself was afraid. But fear made them dangerous. The Dravik warlords unleashed their fury, gathering more fleets, building weapons older and darker than the galaxy had seen in ages. The Council, watching from their golden chambers, debated endlessly. Some demanded Earth be sanctioned. Others whispered that perhaps humanity was the only hope against the Empire's rise. For the refugees, the choice was clear. They had been abandoned once. They would not abandon the humans. More ships joined the fleet. More voices swore loyalty. The coalition grew. Yet even as victories came, the Aegis captain warned his crew. Every battle we win makes the Empire more desperate. And desperation creates monsters. He was right. Scouts soon reported terrible news. Deep in the Empire's core, the Dravik were awakening a weapon not seen in millennia. Something vast. Something built to end wars with one strike. They called it the World Eater. The refugees trembled when they heard the name. Even the humans grew silent. This was not another fleet, not another battle. This was something far worse. On the deck of the Aegis, the captain stared into the void, his jaw tight, his eyes steady. "Then it ends there," he said softly. "If they bring their monster, we will face it. Because this galaxy will not belong to tyrants. Not while Earth still breathes." The crew saluted, the refugees whispered, and the fleet prepared. The greatest battle was still to come. The galaxy held its breath. The Dravik Empire had unleashed its monster. From the shadows of their core systems, the weapon emerged, a ship so vast it seemed to stretch across the stars. It was not just a warship. It was a world in itself, armored beyond reason, armed with weapons that could tear planets apart. The refugees whispered its name in fear. The World Eater. No fleet had ever faced such a thing. No defense had ever survived it. Entire civilizations had fallen to smaller weapons. Now the Empire meant to use it against Earth, against humanity, against anyone who dared hope. The coalition ships trembled as their captains saw the monster through their sensors. Even the bravest felt despair clawing at their hearts. "We cannot win," they whispered. "Not against that." But the Aegis did not waver. Scarred from battles, its hull reforged again and again, the ship stood at the front of the human fleet. The captain's voice rang across every channel, steady and unyielding. "We do not fight because victory is certain. We fight because surrender is worse. If we fall, the galaxy falls. And if we stand, then even monsters can bleed." His words spread through the coalition like fire. Refugees who had once cowered straightened in their seats. Pilots who had once run from battle tightened their grips. Soldiers who had once only known loss felt pride in their chests. For the first time they believed, not just in survival but in victory. The battle began. The World Eater's first shot shook the system. A beam of pure destruction carved through space, tearing a moon into dust as if it were nothing. Whole fleets could have been erased in a single strike. Panic filled the coalition ranks. But the Aegis charged forward. "Stay with us," the captain roared. "Strike as one." The fleet surged, missiles screaming, beams cutting, every ship unleashing its fury. The World Eater's shields flared, unbroken, glowing like a second sun. For every shot the coalition fired, the Empire's monster struck back with 10. Ships burned. Allies died. The void filled with wreckage. But still, the Aegis fought. It darted between the firestorms, weapons blazing, tearing chunks from the smaller Dravik escorts. It moved not like a ship, but like a predator, bleeding yet unbroken. The crew worked in silence, their faces hard, their hands steady, even as the ship shook with every impact. Then came the moment. The Aegis sensors found it, a weakness. A point deep in the World Eater's core, hidden beneath endless armor, but real. A heart that could be broken. The captain gave the order. "All ships, cover us. We go in." The coalition gasped. It was madness. The Aegis would have to fly into the monster's jaws, past its weapons, through its shields. No ship could survive that. But still, the humans moved forward. Allies answered with courage. Broken fleets turned their guns against the escorts, drawing fire, sacrificing themselves so the Aegis could advance. Refugee ships, old and fragile, charged into the storm, giving everything they had. One by one, they fell, but their deaths cleared the path. The Aegis roared through the chaos, armor burning, shields collapsing, every weapon firing until the ship itself groaned like it was alive. It plunged into the shadow of the World Eater, closer, closer, until the monster filled every window. The captain's voice was calm as ever. For Earth. For the forgotten. For all of us. The ship unleashed everything. Every missile. Every beam. Every last drop of fury. The World Eater's armor cracked. Fire spread across its hull. The weakness split wider, glowing like a wound. But the Empire would not let it fall easily. The World Eater turned its main cannon, charging for one last strike, aimed directly at Earth. There was no time. The captain looked at his crew. No words were needed. They understood. The Aegis did not turn away. It did not retreat. It drove forward, straight into the Wound, its engines blazing, its weapons burning bright. The refugees watching from the coalition ships screamed in horror. The humans were sacrificing themselves. The Aegis vanished into the monster's core. For a heartbeat, there was only silence. Then the stars lit up. A blast greater than anything the galaxy had ever seen tore through the void. The World Eater shook, split, and then exploded in a storm of fire. The Empire's monster was gone. Destroyed. The Aegis was gone too. For a long time, no one spoke. The void was filled with wreckage, with silence, with the memory of sacrifice. Then, slowly, voices rose across the fleet. Refugees, soldiers, captains, all whispering the same word. Humans. The Empire had unleashed its greatest weapon. Humanity had answered with courage, with fire, with sacrifice. And they had won. Across the galaxy, the story spread. The Empire could be beaten. The humans had proved it. The forgotten were no longer helpless. The galaxy was no longer silent. And though the Aegis was gone, its name burned brighter than ever. A reminder. A warning. A promise. Humanity refused to abandon anyone. And they had shown the stars what it meant to fight.